Being in this industry, being a mortgage broker, you are self-employed. There wasn't anybody to hold your hand to be like, hey, this is how you do things. You know, they kind of threw you out there and you had to figure it out yourself in a sense. I mean, yeah, there were people helping you here and there, but not much. Equity lending is essentially, let's say you own a home that's worth $2 million and you only owe a $200,000 mortgage on it. You have access to about 80% of the value of the home that is available to you, essentially.
What do you mean by contract rate? What is stress test?
Like when the bank says we're giving you a mortgage at, let's say, 4.6%. We have to stress test that at 6.64%.
How do you manage like the mental load and the stress that you might have to go through?
Okay, I've had to learn how to separate my personal life and my work life.
Any advice for people that want to, become a professional or want to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I would say.
What's up, everybody? My name is Ryan and this is Amin. We are from Orca Realty, and today we're excited to have Varsha Sharma, our podcast guest. And we're going to be discussing a little bit about Varsha's thought process that led to her current success in commercial lending. And we want to know what kind of actions and what kind of thinking is required to become successful in this industry. So to begin things off, we're going to hand it over to Varsha. She's going to tell us a little bit about who she is, why she got into mortgage lending, her journey into mortgage lending. And yeah. All right, Varsh.
All right, quick summary. So my name is Varsha Sharma. I've been with Syndicate Lending since 2018, but I've been in the industry since 2012. My journey started when I was a student at SFU. I was pursuing a degree in health sciences.
Cool.
But to help to pay for schooling, since my dad was a realtor, he was like, why not get your mortgage license and do it that way? Since he was doing it and I was helping him and he's like, you're good at it. I got into doing mortgages. I'll be honest, didn't love it at first because my whole goal was to help people. I wanted to be in the, medical field, health sciences field, do that kind of thing. But after I graduated, I didn't have a lot of opportunities in that field, but I had experience being a broker. So I was able to break into the broker sphere, I guess, if you would, and start from there. And then over time, with finding the right company, finding the right group, finding the right mentor, I was able to learn and grow and thrive, essentially.
Awesome. You mentioned a mentor.
Yes.
How important was that for you?
For me, it was very important because before that, even starting in this industry, there wasn't anybody to hold your hand to be like, hey, this is how you do things. They kind of threw you out there and you had to figure it out yourself in a sense. I mean, yeah, there were people helping you here and there, but not much. So it really helped in terms of having a mentor, because my mentor is Inam Qureshi, as you know, who's also my business partner in Syndicate Lending, and he's very, very successful. So it was really good to learn, a lot of ways and things and processes in terms of how to grow my business and be more successful and things like that. So I'll be honest, ever since I joined Syndicate Lending in 2018, my business has grown substantially.
Wow, that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah. I kind of want to take it back to what you originally said about you being in health services or I'm assuming you're trying to be a nurse or something like that. What was that transition like for you? Because it's such a different industry. Like my wife is a nurse. I know what they go through. It's crazy hours. I wouldn't do it.
Right.
But what was that transition like for you? And, what sort of advice could you give to someone, who's unsure about their career?
Well, for me, it wasn't necessarily nursing. It was more so in public health. So it was a little bit different than hands-on patient care.
Yeah.
But what I would say, it is really different. I think what I had to do is I had to change my frame of mind. Instead of helping people medically, I'm helping them financially now. And that's really helped me grow and change my perspective on the field. In terms of people wanting to get into this and learning and trying, I would say just try it. See. Check it out, research it, look into it, see if it's something that you could enjoy, see if it is something that you could do, and see what happens from there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think you're one of the only people that I've talked to in this industry that didn't go into mortgages coming off of a business or real estate or something like that. So I definitely think it's a unique perspective. So
yeah, and that transitions pretty well into my next question, which relates to the qualifications that are required for somebody to become a mortgage broker. Could you maybe highlight some of those?
Yeah. I mean, I did this so long ago, so it might be a little different now. But from my understanding, you do a course at UBC, you write an exam, and you become a licensed broker. What I would suggest is I also took a supplementary course with somebody named Fred at that time. He is no longer with us, unfortunately, but I believe that his program has carried on. So for somebody getting into this industry, I would highly recommend a supplementary course. It helps for sure.
So like a preparation course?
Yeah,
type of that?
on the
Something
like
that?
with your course at UBC, it definitely helps.
Cool. I've heard of GoBC. I think that might be like something.
I've heard, yeah, similar.
Similar.
I've heard of GoBC, haven't been
Right.
there, but I've heard good things.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah. From our end, we're property managers. It's very similar to like the way that you get a license in mortgages. You have to do the course, you have to do the exam, and then you have to apply for the license. And there are other requirements as well, such as the age you have, and you have to be of good reputation as well in the industry. In terms of your position and your duties, how would you describe that to someone who doesn't know what a mortgage broker does?
It's not necessarily that it's not like you are employed by somebody. Being in this industry, being a mortgage broker, you are self-employed. So it's not necessarily that I have somebody lay out my position or duties for me. It's really up to me, but I feel that what you put into it is what comes out of it. You know, the more you work towards it, the more energy and effort and time that you put into it, it grows because it's your business, right? You are licensed under a brokerage, yes, technically, but you are your own, in a sense, employer, right? You're self-employed.
Cool. Awesome. All right. So let's describe the company you work for now, Syndicate Lending. How would you tell someone what you guys do? And yeah.
Okay, we are Syndicate Lending Corporation. We do residential lending, commercial lending. We do business financing. We do private loans. So I guess we do a little bit of everything.
Okay.
What I think is important for my business and how my partner and I look at it is we don't look at it as from a transactional perspective, is what I would say. It's more of like a relationship that you grow with each lender, with each client, with whatever you're doing. So in that sense, we have the ability to help you if you wanted to buy a warehouse, if you wanted to buy a business, if you wanted to buy a home, if you wanted to refinance, if you need an equity takeout, if you have elderly parents that need equity, all of that we can do. And it's really helpful for people that are also like owner operators or self-employed, because sometimes they have a hard time getting financing, right? But we have products and lenders that we can help them with.
Wow. Sounds like you offer a wide range of solutions for people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I kind of want to take it back to kind of what you said about relationship management.
Yeah.
Obviously, for us as licensed property managers, we operate pretty similar to you guys. Relationship management is very, very important for us. But the one aspect that I really wanted you to touch on was your relationship management with the actual lenders themselves. I don't think I've ever heard that through realtors or anybody else. Like, could you describe perhaps the differences or what you would do differently to get that ongoing relationship and make sure it's on good terms?
Well, what we do at our company is every morning we do a Zoom call to a different lender. So there's always like a point in time, every few months, we're touching base. But not just that, being a broker, because you have access to so many lenders, it's so easy for me to pick up the phone and call one bank or another lender. And it's not as simple as, hey, what can you do for me? It's, hey, how are you doing? How is so-and-so? How is this going? You know what I mean? You build this relationship, you know, you go to events that they host, or they come to events that we host and things like that. And then over time, it just continues to grow.
Yeah, that's definitely very interesting, because I never actually thought about it that way. I always thought like, hey, you're getting money, it's from some corporation, someone that doesn't even know you. But it's interesting to know that you guys, especially a syndicate, you have a relationship with the lenders. I think that's very unique. Yeah, that's cool. I learned something today.
I'm glad.
That's the goal, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the future outlook for your company, Syndicate Lending? We know what you do now. What do you think you're going to be like in the next couple of years, 3 or so?
Honestly, I don't. I want to say we'll continue to thrive and grow. I know that the way that the industry is heading, it's becoming a lot more regulated.
Okay.
So I think we're going to see a lot more regulation, and a lot more will come along with that in terms of brokers having certain responsibilities and certain transparencies to borrowers and consumers and things like that. But I feel that Syndicate will continue to grow. And honestly, at some point in time, I do hope to create kind of a team here, because right now it's just my partner and I, and we have like a very small team at this moment in time, but it would be nice to grow the team a little.
Awesome. So future growth, and obviously we all have to deal with regulations. Us real estate professionals are heavily regulated. I'm sure you're aware, like we have tons of new rules coming out from the residential tenancy board and the branch and all that. So I think Amin wants to add something on that.
Yeah. I actually wanted to ask, because obviously we're now all under BCFSA, which I'm assuming you guys are as well. What sort of regulations maybe occurred in the past 5 years that have changed up the way that you guys do business? And I know this is sort of a stretch and you don't have to answer it if you don't know, but what do you forecast? Like, how do you have to change how you operate to continue the success that you guys have seen?
Oh, that's a doozy.
Yeah, it's a doozy.
Well, in terms of changes that I've seen, I know that the way, for example, prior to 2019, we used to be able to qualify clients at the contract rate rather than stress testing them. You know what I mean? It was a little bit easier to get.
And sorry to interrupt, just for our viewers that are watching this, what do you mean by contract rate? What is stress test? What does that mean? So
the rate that you get, for example, like when the bank says we're giving you a mortgage at, let's say, 4.6%, we have to stress test that at 6.64%, which is 2% on top of the contract rate. But the contract rate is the rate that you will be paying in terms of interest on your mortgage.
Interesting.
But years ago, before the stress test was introduced, we used to just have to qualify at the contract rate, which generally was a lot easier and simpler. You'd need less income to buy a home, to buy a property. And we used to have 35-year amortizations, which now are coming back, but for years they were gone. And amortization, the length of the amortization helps with the client because it lowers your mortgage payment as well, right? So 35 years versus 25 years can make a huge difference to somebody at some point in time. So I mean, things like that. And in terms of regulations, there's a lot more transparency in terms of what we have to declare, in terms of what we have to share with our clients. And it'll continue, I feel, in that, with that trend moving forward, with a lot more disclosures and a lot more transparency in terms of what we're doing, which is fine. I don't think it'll really affect the business, but it's just a lot more hassle and paperwork, because I already have clients being like, why are we signing 20 documents today?
We've been
sad if you are.
No, it's good though. You guys are obviously, speaking to you, you're very on top of that. You guys seem very organized. I'm not sure if you guys see the office, but this is one of the most beautiful places I've actually seen. The amount of TIs you guys spent in here, but it's good to know that you guys are forward thinking and willing to kind of jump on that challenge.
For sure.
There's always going to be new challenges in this industry. We know there's going to be new regulations, and we know we're heavily regulated. So that's something that we got to navigate, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's transition a little bit to some of the challenges that you've faced getting into the industry and being a mortgage broker at this point. How do you manage like the mental load and the stress that you might have to go through?
I'm just kidding. I cry.
Thought you were gonna explode for a second there.
No, honestly, I have had to learn. I've had to learn how to separate my personal life and my work life, because as you know, being somebody in this industry, being somebody who's self-employed, sometimes you work from like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sometimes I'm on my laptop at midnight figuring something out, like, you know what I mean? Sometimes I have to wake up extra early. Like, there's no set times for like what you're doing, because you have to cater to your clients and what's going on. So really, I had to learn how to, I guess, create boundaries and know when to shut off my brain for kind of work, and then keep time aside for myself, or else I would have definitely burned out by this point in time. And then just like things like reading and coloring and puzzles, stuff like that, just is really helpful. And I have a good set of family and friends that are,
nice.
There.
Cool. Yeah. And like the mental load and stress with clients can get to be a lot, right? Especially when, they're paying their bill. So you have to make sure you're showing up on time and offering your service, offering your advice. And I think that's something that I've learned as well, being 5 years in the industry now, is setting those expectations is absolutely key for you as an agent, because you need to manage your stress so you can perform.
Absolutely.
Cool. Awesome. Moving on, we talked a little bit earlier about the regulations, the current real estate market. So what do you think are some desirable markets in the Lower Mainland based on your experience?
Can I say all markets? Like,
You could.
I see, the thing is, what I've seen, like growing up, like my dad's been a realtor since before I was born, or maybe since I was a baby. You know, it's been a really long time, right? So I've seen it over years and years and years, and I've heard about it and have had conversations about it. But what I've seen is it continues to grow. It doesn't matter really where it is. I mean, at one point in time, Vancouver's growing, and then Surrey grew, and Surrey's continuing to grow, and then it's moved out to like Langley and Hope, and now people are moving all the way to Alberta, and that's been a crazy market over this last year. So it's it continues to grow. I think it doesn't really matter necessarily where you are. I think obviously the more urban you are, the more it'll continue to appreciate. But
So you're saying that you kind of see a trend towards more rural, urban areas, kind of like away from the city?
No, urban areas, like within
the city.
Yeah, within the city. Okay. So like cities like Surrey, Langley is growing. I mean, Abbotsford is growing. Mission is growing. You know, so
awesome. Yeah, like those are some of the markets that we service as well, and. Yeah, in the last few years, rent's gone up, prices have gone up. Nothing, regardless if we went through any difficult economic times, prices of real estate still go up. So it's good insight. How does someone learn about the market if they're interested to become a realtor, become a mortgage broker, property manager, or even if they just want to stay informed as an investor?
I mean, we have the internet these days, right? At our fingertips. It's not hard to go on there and just like look things up, because there's so much information that's freely available. But I think it also helps to speak to maybe somebody who's in the industry. You know, like if I wanted to get into property management, I would come to you guys and be like, hey, how do I do this? Like, what do I do? Like, what do I need? You know, or if I was looking for somebody to do that for me. So, I mean, and vice versa, if somebody needed mortgage information and wanted to be a broker, I'd be like, hey, come talk to me. I'm here to help you with that, and I can provide you whatever information that's needed. So I would say between the internet and just reaching out.
Awesome. Yeah. Use your voice, speak up, get out there, kind of like going back to what you said earlier about your success and mentoring, helping you out. You got to go out there and find a mentor first. And to do that, you got to speak up. So that's interesting. Good stuff. Moving on then, let's talk about your journey and your accomplishments. So, you've been through a lot now since 2012 as a mortgage broker. Is there anything at the top of your mind that you're the proudest of? Anything that you've done? Anything that you received?
I mean, as far as awards go, I mean, of course, our awards. I've been nominated for Woman of Influence twice, 3 times in the past, which is really nice. But personally, what I feel like my accomplishments are my long-term clients. Because it's years and years, and they I've maintained that relationship with them, and the first person they turn to is me, and I really feel proud of that, because it's really nice to know that I'm helping you and I'm servicing you enough where you trust me with all this, like all your finances, like your life, essentially, in a sense, right?
All in a notebook.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good response. Some people would be like, they're physical, like, I got this award and I got this recognition, but
and I closed on $100 million deal
or something. 100 deals. No, that's great. Any advice for people that want to, become a professional or want to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I would say maintain your discipline. You have to keep working hard at it. There's days that obviously none of us want to get up and do it, but you got to get up and you got to do it. You got to grind. I think one of the most important things that I learned is maintaining your relationships will carry you very far, because the more relationship oriented you are, you're able to grow your network. Because I have people that have come to me and then have referred their moms, their dads, their sisters, their cousins, like, you know what I mean? And then it just grows and grows and grows in that way. And then that's like amazing. And I think one of the biggest things in business is always ask. Because if you don't ask, the answer will always be no. And Nam had initially taught me that because I used to be a lot more shy. So I used to be like, I don't know, like, should I ask? And he'd be like, you have to ask, because if you don't ask, then you don't know what the answer will be. So now I ask, and you know what? You'll be surprised. More often than not, people are like, yeah, you know what? I am interested. Can you let me know more about this? Which is really nice.
Wow. So relationships and using your voice is really important.
Definitely.
Yeah. I kind of want to bring it back to mortgages when we were talking about that.
Yeah.
I know for us and a lot of our clients, like, you know, we get pretty stuck when we're thinking about the types of investments we want to do, right? Like, hey, should I buy like this commercial property? Should I buy this residential property? I guess, like, what would you say are the main differences in getting a mortgage for a residential property versus buying, like, call it a warehouse in Langley? What should I be looking for as an investor? What should I provide to you to make things easier?
I mean, I think it depends on what your goals are, what you're looking for, kind of thing. Residential and commercial are two different. I mean, they're not wildly different, but you're going in for two different types of financing here, right? When you're going in for a residential financing, for example, are you looking to buy a home for yourself? Are you looking to buy a rental property? Is it some type of project where you're building something to sell? Like, you know what I mean? All this makes a difference in what type of product we can give you. Whereas on the commercial side, it's similar in that way. Whether you're buying a warehouse, whether you're building a high rise, or you're building something bigger than that, that'll all come into play when putting together a mortgage. And so I think it just really depends on what you're looking for in terms of what I can advise you. There's no like bottom line in terms of what I can say, hey, this is good or this is bad. I think it just makes it'll make sense based on the situation, based on what it is. I mean, of course, if you find a profitable business and you're like, hey, I'm buying this business for X amount of dollars, and this is the revenue, and this is the net revenue that we'll be making, it makes sense. I'll be like, yeah, that's awesome for you. That makes sense. Or, hey, I'm looking to buy this residential property for this amount, and I want to do this with it. I want to rent out the basement. I want to live upstairs, like, you know?
Yeah.
If you're talking about in terms of how much is invested, of course, I think it's probably a little bit easier to acquire a residential property rather than a commercial property, because you would need more down payment towards your commercial property, and it is a longer process. So residential properties may be an easier way to, not easier, but like slightly an easier way to start, let's say.
To sort of get into the market, cash flow the thing, work your way up, all of that. I love hearing that. Cash flow is an awesome word.
Cash flow is
it's a great word.
Yeah, most people, I would say, start in residential, build up their equity portfolio. I think earlier before this, we talked a little bit about equity lending. Could you maybe discuss like what that means?
Yeah, so equity lending, like, for example, I was telling you, there's a new product for North Vancouver residents that have a lot of equity in their properties where we can do equity lending. Equity lending is essentially, let's say you own a home that's worth $2 million and you only owe a $200,000 mortgage on it. You have access to about 80%, based on the lender, about 80% of the value of the home that is available to you, essentially. And then beyond that, we have reverse mortgages, which I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, reverse mortgages. But it's not like that. A lot of older people that live in Vancouver that have, accumulated a lot of equity in their homes have struggled in the past because they're like, we don't have enough income from our pension to cover our property tax or whatever because it's gone up so much. So that's where reverse mortgage lending comes in, because now you can draw on your equity tax-free because it's the home that you own, and you can use that towards your retirement, for your kids, for whatever you need to use it for.
It's interesting. Is that similar to like a HELOC or one of those? Like I have absolutely no idea about any of this. I heard HELOC from one of my friends. I was like, yeah, dude, totally. I get it.
It's a cool word.
It's a little different. So a HELOC is a home equity line of credit.
Okay.
So let's say you own a home for $1 million. Its value is $1 million. You have a HELOC for $650,000. So that's about 65% loan to value. Yeah. So basically on a HELOC, it's like a line of credit, but it's against your home. So you draw on it based on what you need. So say you draw 300,000 from there. You're only paying interest on the 300,000 that you've borrowed from there.
Oh.
You take it out, put it back, it'll be revolving. So it's a little different.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay. So it's very circumstantial depending on the client situation, which product fits best.
It is. It definitely depends. Like, for example, like the reverse mortgages is specifically tiered to older people, right? Because they may not have the easiest time. They may not have a job at this moment in time. They may not be having the easiest time. It's a little bit different, right? Because with a reverse mortgage, it's payment flexible. There aren't payments on it if you don't want there to be until you have either sold the house or something happens and
It's
don't
just a
have
lump
house
sum
anymore.
that you take out.
Yeah. Whereas a HELOC is more so you are paying interest on it monthly, but you're only paying interest on the amount that you take out. But even with a HELOC, like any mortgage, you have to qualify for it. So it's a little different.
Okay.
That's
I've
interesting.
heard a lot of like HELOC users. They use that line of credit to make upgrades and renovations to the house because that way you're pouring that money back into that asset that you're borrowing from and increasing the asset. So.
Yeah. No, next
Cool.
time we're at like a dinner party or something, I can start throwing these terms out. I know what it means.
Let's finish. So far, yeah, we've gotten to know about Varsha's journey, how she got there, some of the challenges she faced, what the current real estate market looks like, and now we want to finish this up with something lighter, something about you and what you like to do. So tell us, what are some of your hobbies?
Honestly, most of my hobbies are just spending time with my friends, my family. I love cooking for people that I love. I like trying new recipes and things like that. I'm a huge foodie. So if I try something and I love it, I'll try to like remake the recipe at home so I can eat it all the time. Things like that.
Nice. Food is something everybody needs, right? We all love it.
Yeah. Believe it or not, I'm a great cook as well.
Believe it or not, I don't believe it.
I've made you food, bro.
Yeah, eggs and toast.
It's better than cereal.
Not really. Is there any like TV shows, movies, books that you are watching or have read that you might want to recommend for anyone?
I mean, TV shows for me, it's all over the place. I'll be
Yeah.
honest. It's like I'm rewatching Game of Thrones right now. So it just
Cool.
depends.
Nice.
I didn't understand the Game of Thrones hype.
Oh, dude, I loved it. I spent 7 years on that show. This is just an anecdote. This is about me, not over.
7 years.
Dude, I spent 7 years watching that show, and then the final season came out, and I can never watch any Game of Thrones content ever again. Like, dude, the amount of disappointment I felt, and like I got up and like I yelled at
Yeah.
the screen. You know what I mean?
It
I
was-
haven't even watched House of Dragons yet, just because of that like disappointment. So I don't know.
I mean, it's fair. It's a fair point.
Yeah,
Fair.
that was way too much commitment. I'm never gonna do that again.
7 seasons for what?
Yeah, for what? Seriously. Jon Snow, they did my
Well,
point
cool.
dirty.
Well, thank you, Varsha. We want to thank you so much for spending your time with us and doing this podcast. I think I can speak for myself. I learned something about the mortgage market and what you do, and I think everyone else will as well. So, thank you so much. And in the future, we'll see you again, hopefully.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay.